The fluorescent lights of the neighborhood grocery store flickered faintly, casting a sterile glow over the aisles. It was late afternoon, the kind of hour when the store was crowded with tired shoppers, their carts clanging against each other like a chaotic orchestra. Among them was Sarah, a single mother in her early 30s, her face etched with exhaustion. Her 5-year-old son, Noah, clung to her hand, his wide eyes darting around the store as she pushed a cart filled with essentials, diapers, milk, bread, and a few cans of soup. Money was tight, as always, and every item in the cart was a calculated necessity. Sarah's shoulders sagged under the weight of her responsibilities, but she smiled softly at Noah, who was babbling about a cartoon he'd watched that morning. Unbeknownst to Sarah, she was being watched. Not by the usual curious glances of other shoppers, but by a trio of men loitering near the canned goods aisle. They were in their late 20s, dressed in oversized hoodies, their laughter loud and mocking. They'd been causing trouble in the store for weeks, intimidating shoppers, knocking items off shelves, and harassing anyone who looked vulnerable. Today, their eyes locked onto Sarah. Her worn jacket, the way she double-checked the price tags, and the quiet determination in her steps made her an easy target. To them, she was just another person to toy with. As Sarah reached for a box of cereal, one of the men, a lanky guy with a smirk plastered across his face, stepped forward. "Hey, lady," he called out, his voice dripping with mockery. "You sure you can afford that? Looks like you're struggling." His friend snickered behind him, egging him on. Sarah froze, her hand hovering over the cereal. She turned slightly, her eyes meeting his for a brief moment before she looked away, trying to ignore them. Noah, sensing the tension, pressed closer to her side. "Come on, don't be shy," the leader continued, stepping closer. He knocked the cereal box out of her hand, and it clattered to the floor. The sound drew the attention of a few nearby shoppers, but no one intervened. Sarah's cheeks flushed with embarrassment and anger, but she bit her lip, kneeling to pick up the box. "Leave us alone," she said quietly, her voice trembling but firm. The leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Oh, she talks. What's the matter, can't handle a little fun?" He reached out, nudging the cart with his foot, causing it to roll slightly. Noah whimpered, and Sarah's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but she knew it wouldn't help. Not here, not with Noah watching. What none of them noticed was the man standing at the end of the aisle, his sharp eyes taking in the scene. Jason Statham, in town for a rare day off from filming, had stopped by the store to grab a few things. Dressed in a simple black jacket and jeans, he blended in with the crowd, but his presence was anything but ordinary. His jaw tightened as he watched the three men circle Sarah like vultures. He'd seen this kind of behavior before, cowards preying on the vulnerable, and it lit a fire in his chest. Jason set down the bottle of water he'd been holding and strode forward, his steps deliberate and silent. The leader of the group was mid-sentence, taunting Sarah about her cheap groceries, when Jason's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Oi, mate," he said, his British accent sharp and commanding. "You got a problem?" The three men turned, their smirks faltering as they sized up the man standing before them. Jason's stance was relaxed, but there was a coiled intensity in his posture, like a panther ready to strike. The leader, trying to save face, puffed out his chest. "Who the hell are you? Mind your own business, old man." Jason's lips twitched into a faint, dangerous smile. "Old man? That's a new one." He stepped closer, his eyes locked on the leader's. "Why don't you pick on someone your own size? Or you only brave when it's a woman and a kid?" The leader sneered, glancing at his friends for backup. "You wanna play hero? Fine. Let's see what you've got." He shoved Jason's shoulder, expecting him to back off. Instead, Jason moved with lightning speed, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting it just enough to make him wince. The other two stepped forward, but Jason's glare stopped them in their tracks. "Listen carefully," Jason said, his voice low and steady. You're gonna apologize to her, pick up that cereal box, and walk out of here. Or I'll make sure you regret it. He released the leader's wrist, shoving him back slightly. The man stumbled, his bravado crumbling under Jason's unyielding stare. The store had gone quiet, shoppers watching the confrontation with bated breath. Sarah clutched Noah, her heart racing, torn between fear and awe. The leader hesitated, his ego battling his survival instincts. Finally, he muttered a half-hearted, sorry, under his breath, grabbed the cereal box, and shoved it onto the shelf. His friends, sensing the shift in power, backed away. Jason wasn't done. He stepped forward, closing the distance again. Louder, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. And mean it. The leader's face reddened, but he complied. I'm sorry, he said, louder this time, his eyes darting to Sarah. She nodded slightly, still shaken but relieved. Now get out, Jason said, pointing toward the exit. The three men didn't need to be told twice. They shuffled out of the store, their earlier swagger replaced by embarrassment. The crowd parted to let them pass, a few shoppers murmuring their approval. Jason turned to Sarah, his expression softening. You all right, love? He asked, his voice gentle now. Sarah nodded, her eyes welling up with tears she'd been holding back for too long. Thank you, she whispered. I didn't know what to do. Noah peeked out from behind her, his eyes wide with admiration. Are you a superhero? He asked, his voice small but curious. Jason chuckled, crouching down to Noah's level. Nah, mate. Just someone who doesn't like bullies. He ruffled Noah's hair, earning a shy smile from the boy. Sarah wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. I don't know how to thank you, she said. It's been hard. And people like that, they make it harder. Jason stood, glancing at her cart. He noticed the sparse items, the careful selection of the cheapest brands. Without a word, he walked over to the shelf, grabbed the cereal box, and placed it in her cart. Then he added a few more items, fresh fruit, a pack of cookies, a small toy for Noah. Sarah's eyes widened. Oh, no, you don't have to. I want to, Jason interrupted, his tone firm but kind. You're doing a hell of a job, raising this little guy. Let someone help you out for once. Sarah's throat tightened, and she nodded, unable to find words. Noah tugged at her hand, holding up the toy, a small plastic car. Look, Mommy. It's red. His excitement broke the tension, and Sarah laughed through her tears. At the checkout, Jason insisted on paying for her groceries. The cashier, who had witnessed the whole scene, rang them up with a smile. You're a good man, she told Jason as she handed him the receipt. Just doing what's right, he replied, shrugging it off. As they walked out of the store, Sarah turned to Jason one last time. I don't even know your name, she said. Jason, he said simply, giving her a nod. Take care of yourself, Sarah. And you, Noah, keep being a good kid. Noah waved enthusiastically as Jason walked away, his figure disappearing into the parking lot. Sarah stood there for a moment, clutching the grocery bags, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders for the first time in months. It wasn't just the groceries or the confrontation. It was the reminder that kindness still existed, that there were people who would stand up for her when she couldn't. Back in his car, Jason sat for a moment, staring out at the fading sunlight. He thought about his own life, the stunts, the films, the chaos, and how moments like this grounded him. He didn't need a script or a camera to feel like he'd made a difference. Today, in a small grocery store, he'd been a hero, not the kind from his movies, but the kind that mattered. And for Sarah and Noah, that moment would stay with them forever, a spark of hope in a world that sometimes felt too heavy. They walked home, Noah clutching his new toy, Sarah's steps a little lighter, her heart a little fuller, knowing that even on the hardest days, there was still good out there.